When I first acknowledged myself as an artist and I wanted to write a funding application to the Arts Council, I had to do it on an electric typewriter, and my finger got cut, or a paper cut on the envelope, and so there was a little trickle of blood that poured onto the funding application, and I had to sort of send it off. So my name is Tom Marshman. I'm a theatre maker, writer and artist, and I've been working for over 20 years. Audiences need to see their own stories reflected back at them in some way. When I had my residency at the National Trust Hanbury Hall House, I invited a whole lot of older LGBT people to the house and talk about how their narratives and their personal lives are reflected in those historical houses or not, as the case may be. And so I talked about that quite openly in a Tea Party context. It's a brilliant way to capture people's oral histories. And I did that through my show King's Cross Remix, which was about King's Cross area in London in the 1980s. I held several tea parties. I met people and they told me interesting stories and they were documented. And he said to this boy, "I really like your hair because it was this big stiffy up quiff." And the boy said, "Why thanks, it's wood glue." And often these are stories that are very well versed. You know, they're stories that people have told again and again. So they're really well crafted. I put those words on their feet, if you like.
Sorry, you know where I come from.
I've seen the whole cultural climate completely change, the way that people access my work and the way that I show it, but also just the way that I research work. Like, we didn't really have the internet then, and there's so much material available online.
Oh, it's frozen. Why is it always freeze at the best bits?
It just feels so immediate now, so that you make something and then you can put it out there.
Slice up a cow and stick it in formaldehyde.
I think that a lot of people just know me for a certain type of work that I do, which is like saucy nights that I put on, where we kind of show part of a film, but we interrupt it with live performances. And there's always something grotesque or some nudity or, I don't know. They're always just a really fun, naughty night out. And some of the sighted works, actually, I kind of have that irreverence around spaces. For example, at Hanbury Hall, I just completely reworked a Lady Gaga song to a bawdy 17th century song about Queen Anne's mistress.
What's your bad romance when Queen Anne of Great Britain set to sway?
So in more recent years, creative technology has become very important to me.
The haunted life that they were living as closeted homosexual.
It helps me transform myself into different characters. But also I'm interested in using technology and making performances where I don't actually physically necessarily have to be present in the room. So I did that in an audio tour for the M Shed, and you can access that audio tour just by going to the front desk and picking it up. So for the show Legs 11, I entered a competition to find the best legs in the country. And I actually became a runner-up because I've got quite good legs. Or I did then. And the show sort of charted that journey, really, of all the things that have happened to my legs. So I had my varicose veins removed, and I made some false legs, and I strapped them to my torso, and I ran a marathon, and I made a show about it, which was quite comic, really. I feel quite attached to my legs. I don't know, I can't say that.
There'll be blue.
I've worked in a whole collection of diverse spaces, from National Trust houses to an allotment plot. We need to talk about Bambi that I placed within a forest, but then completely changed it round and put it in a kind of urban concrete jungle. But I suppose I am essentially a performer that likes to travel, and I have shows that can be fit into suitcases. I just recently tried to make more room for another show that's going into storage. And some of those shows, like you just open the big plastic box and you can smell them again. It's really weird. I did 3 companion shows exploring masculinity: a cowboy show, a soldier show, and a sailor show called Hello Sailor, Goodbye Heart. I think I was drawing quite a lot of analogies between myself as a travelling performer going from place to place, never really settling down, and the life of the sailor. And I still feel like that to this day, I guess. And in that show, I just felt like it was really important that I get some tattoos done. So I got a chest piece and a ship on my arm, which was funded by the Arts Council. Production of Entertaining Mr. Sloan. Rooting around in an archive is really enjoyable for me. Old documents that feel like they capture the essence of a person. The life of Oliver Messel, who was a set designer in the 1950s. Everything about him was recorded in the archives. Letters to Noel Coward and Katharine Hepburn, they're all there. And it was because he was deemed to be important, and that's great. But there's also lots of stories about people that aren't deemed important, and those are the ones that really kind of get under your skin. There's something about the way that I make work which has a sort of rehabilitating effect on the archive, so bringing those stories to the foreground, shining a light on them. When my nan passed away, who was like a working class woman, and she had loads of kind of souvenirs from the Isle of Wight, paper doilies, toilet roll holders in the shape of dollies, and it was all just going to be thrown away, and I just felt like it felt so loaded and sentimental that I couldn't throw it away, and so I felt like I needed to preserve it in a way. And so I made a show about it using all those objects. They became elevated as objects of art and significance and importance. But really they were just a load of old tat. And they thought, yes, it was a definite aspersion and rudeness against the local dance halls, and they would not have it in the script. I'm looking towards the future, and I can see developing a new show talking about the life of Kenneth Williams that feels like something that is getting under my skin. I just really am a jobbing artist. I want to maintain the kind of work that I'm doing. I want to be engaged in projects that I feel excited about. I think I just look I'm just looking for the next thing. I'm not looking further than that. But there's always so many of the next things that I just keep going.